Businessman and philanthropist Michael Audain has said that living with art has been one of the great joys of his life. He has generously shared some of his art with the Vancouver Art Gallery in a show called Shore, Forest and Beyond. And it is my pleasure to welcome Thom, Senior Curator of the Vancouver Art Gallery, to Studio 4 to tell us more about this amazing collection.
It is an extraordinary collection. There's no question about it.
What is the show about?
The show is really mostly about BC, because Michael is a very proud British Columbian, and so the focus of the collection has mostly been about art by First Nations people and non-First Nations people. He has as far as we know, is the largest single collection of Emily Carr's work in private hands. And he's built an extraordinary assemblage of historical 19th century First Nations masks. And he's bought contemporary work, like people like Rodney Graham, Jeff Wall, Stan Douglas. So it's really an exceptional collection.
And as I said earlier, he used to hang pictures in his locker of the masters rather than of the hockey stars or girls.
He's always been interested in art, but as he's often said, he never dreamed he'd be in a position to own as much of it as he does in his own home.
Exactly.
And this is really work that he and his wife both very much live with. And
he either gives it away or he hangs it in his office or his home. He doesn't. Some collectors, as you know, they collect it and they store it, and many people don't see it.
Yes,
but my sense of Mr. Audain is that he actually enjoys it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's in his home. I mean, his house right now, I have to say, is quite naked.
Well, because you've been there.
Yes, I've been there, and many of the things that are normally in his house are now in the art gallery.
I bet they are. So you took a Sonny Assu.
Yes, we took Sonny Assu. A number of Sonny Assu works. Michael's been very supportive of a number of younger First Nations people. So this is Sonny Assu's work called Silenced. And here he takes a sort of very contemporary look at a traditional house form that you see there in terms of the shape of the canvas. I mean, Sonny is a really interesting guy, and he produces
young, award-winning.
Yes, absolutely. He's about to get a Creative Achievement Award from the BC Achievement Foundation, which of course you're very much part of.
Yes, I'm a member. I'm on the committee.
Yes,
I didn't choose him. I'm not in that committee.
No.
But I am a member of the Achievement Foundation, as you know.
Yes.
And it's a great event.
Yeah.
You also took an Emily Carr, I hear, or did you already have that?
No, we didn't already have that. That's there's a wonderful Emily Carr. Quiet is a work done in 1942, which is of course the last year she actually was painting. After that, her health didn't allow her to. There's only 6 known canvases from 1942, and this is one of those 6. So it's an extraordinary vision of the forest, which you expect from Emily Carr in her later work.
Exactly, and in her earlier work in 1912,
she's looking at First Nations material, and so there's a wonderful painting of Alert Bay, war canoes. Alert Bay was a village she visited beginning in 1907 and revisited in 1912, and this is from 1912.
That's beautiful.
It's an amazing painting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oil on canvas.
Oil on canvas.
Oil
yes.
on canvas. What else? There's one called Paint Up Number 1.
Oh yes, this is a recent work by Dana Claxton. I mean, who's a contemporary artist who actually teaches at the University of British Columbia, and she's sort of taking ideas of looking at First Nations war paint. And this is a huge work. It's almost 6 feet square.
Wow. Is it a print?
It's a photograph.
It's a photograph.
It's a large scale photograph, and so it really confronts you immediately when you come into the second part on the second floor of the gallery.
Wow. So what's the difference between like a photograph and a photoconceptual work? How does that all
Well, a photoconceptual work is a work where you use photography, but perhaps it's tinged by some other larger ideas rather than just presented in a straightforward way.
Okay, so it's not just a picture of you or me.
Yes.
Echo Boy, E.J. Hughes. Why didn't we buy an E.J. Hughes when we could have?
Well, partially because it was difficult to buy an E.J. Hughes if you lived in BC, because you could only buy them in Montreal. But this is a wonderful painting from 1953. It was actually a painting he was commissioned to do by Imperial Oil, and so you see the Imperial Nanaimo, which is the tanker there, in a small village up the coast, which it was a supply boat. And Hughes was on that boat for a number of days, and he produced a group of paintings which were reproduced in their magazine, and then subsequently sold.
And much of the Audain collection, not much, but some of the Audain collection is Aboriginal Traditional Aboriginal art, Reg Davidson.
Yes, Reg Davidson, who probably is one of the most extraordinary mask makers of, of the Haida Nation, and this is a wonderful piece by Reg. But there's also a number of really wonderful historical Haida works as well.
Any hats?
Yes. There's a wonderful hat by Charles Edenshaw, who of course is the greatest of the Haida artists in the late 19th, early 20th century. And this is
related to Bill Reed. Related
to Bill Reed. I mean, related to Robert Davidson, related to Jim Hart, related to a whole series of really major Haida figures.
Jock MacDonald.
Jock MacDonald was an artist who came to British Columbia not being a painter, and he learned to paint in BC. And with people like Fred Varley, he went up to Garibaldi Park and did this wonderful image of the Black Tusk in 1932. Went on, of course, eventually to become a member of the Painters 11 in Toronto and a major abstract painter as well.
Did you read recently that they found what they think is a shadbolt or some shadbolt drawings? Was at Hadassah Bazaar?
Oh,
or?
yes, I saw that, and from what I saw of the images, they're almost certainly Jack's. Jack did a lot of that kind of work.
Do you remember the story, why they were there?
Well, I mean, Jack did lots of work for all kinds of things. He did things for the Arts Club. He did things for the Hadassah Bazaars. He did a whole series of posters and things like this.
So posters and works for charity or auction.
Exactly.
He gave back a lot.
He gave back.
So the Jack Shadbolt in this show, are there one, two?
Well, there are two. The major work in this show is this extraordinary work from 1981 called Butterfly Transformation, which is really this group of 6 panels and is one of the most significant butterfly works he's ever did. He was always interested in the life cycles of nature, and you sort of see that in this large work.
And others, you said there's Ian Wallace.
There's Ian Wallace, there's Jeff Wall, there's Rodney Graham, there's Stan Douglas, there's Ken Lum, there's Marianne Nicholson. There's a whole range of artists. But there's, if anyone wants to see an extraordinary group of Emily Carrs, the gallery has some, but Michael Audain also has an extraordinary group.
And what a privilege. So some of this show comes from the gallery permanent collection?
The things that Mr. Audain and Ms. Kurosawa have already given to the gallery, some of them are in the exhibition. There's 5 of those things, but everything else belongs to the Audains at this moment.
Okay, and is there some Mexican modernism?
Yes, when Michael was a young man, he became really fascinated with the idea of art with political bent to it. So he went to Mexico and looked at Mexican muralists. And so he has a collection of Rivera, Orozco, Siqueiros, and Rufino Tamayo.
Really?
Probably the biggest holding of that work in Canada, actually.
So the richness of this
it's an extraordinary thing, and it's only going to be seen at the gallery because after the show's over, it goes back to his house.
That's the problem. So we have to get invited for dinner.
Yes.
I bet you've been for dinner.
In fact, I have.
I bet you have. I haven't yet. Could you hint?
Well, I'll do my best.
Okay, do your best. Tell him I sit on that committee.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. How did he start collecting? Do you know that story?
He started collecting over 40 years ago. But he gave himself a budget. First of all, it was like $25 a month. And you could buy things, on time and so on. Then eventually his budget got a little bit bigger, and then after he went into business, when he was in his 40s, he began to have more funds and he could buy larger things.
Exactly, more funds helps, doesn't it?
Yes, it does help.
Yeah. So this is up until January 29th.
Yes, it is.
Shore, Forest, and Beyond from the Audain Collection. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.